Welcome everyone! This module will focus on fundraising and donations. Fundraising is an essential part of any campaign. We'll learn how to make fundraising into an act of empowerment and to center community and impact while building lasting relationships with donors. My aim for this module is to help you breathe life into your campaign fundraising. I'll show you ways to tie your values and goals into your fundraising efforts and give you the tools you need to go out into your community with confidence. So I'll start by introducing myself. You'll see my bio on the screen and you can pause to read it if you'd like. But what I'd mostly like to say is that I started out in the workforce as a fundraiser for a wonderful nonprofit organization in Montreal called Centropole Roulant. The picture you see was taken at their rooftop garden, actually. At this point, I knew next to nothing about fundraising and all of a sudden had to write a bunch of grants, plan fundraising campaigns, and build relationships with big funders. It was a whole new world, and I quickly discovered the tension that fundraisers often feel with the way things are traditionally done. With the support of my colleagues, I had to find my own way, and in doing so, I realized that a lot of fundraising is storytelling and making connections with people, and this I could get behind. In your campaigns as future council members and mayors, you'll be doing a lot of the same thing to build support, and fundraising doesn't have to be any different. So in this course, we're going to talk about a few things. First, we'll look at what I call the problem of fundraising. Nobody's here because they think fundraising is fun and beautiful, and we'll look at why, and how I want us to address that in this course. Next, we'll flip the problems on their head and consider the power of fundraising. We're going to do an activity after that, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to show you this amazing fundraising model called community-centric fundraising. I hope you'll see it as a new way to approach fundraising that's more inclusive and rooted in anti-oppression and decolonization. Then, we'll get into the basics of municipal campaign fundraising. I'll show you what you'll need and what's allowed and not allowed, so you'll feel well equipped to take on what often feels like a daunting task. And lastly, my favorite part, we'll talk about how to keep community and impact at the center of your campaign messaging. Learning how to fundraise in a way that's tied to your campaign values and platform is so important. I'm also going to set you up for a homework activity. I want you to use what we've discussed today to write an elevator pitch for your campaign, as well as strategize about how to keep donors around after they agree to give, something that's also called stewardship. Just want you to remember that your workbook has all of the activities in it, as well as some additional information and prompts. Don't hesitate to refer to it as we go through the slides. And there's also a reference sheet where I've put all the external resources I'll be talking about today. Please feel free to have that open as we go through. So let's talk about the problem of fundraising. People who want to make positive change in their communities are often frustrated by fundraising. Grant applications often require us to dilute great ideas into checkboxes and measure impact through tiny metrics that don't present clear pictures of the positive change generated by an initiative. Accepted practices require us to provide cold, hard numbers and lots of recognition to donors and funders in order to prove to them that their money has made a difference. This creates a ton of work for us as fundraisers. And because of all this, it can be our least favorite part, as we often end up feeling small and undignified. And this can go double for when you're young, racialized, marginalized, and or trying to get into politics. I've linked a great article called The Issue of Racism in the Fundraising Profession and a handout on the characteristics of white supremacy culture in the workplace. Both of these articles will demonstrate to you that, unfortunately, none of these problems are going to be solved anytime soon. Fundraising and philanthropy are as much rooted in colonialism and racist ideology as anything else in society. That said, I firmly believe there are ways to make fundraising an empowering act, and that's what I hope to share today. We'll look at the lay of the land as it is, and I'll give you some ways to navigate through it without compromising your values and beliefs. Aside from going over the basics, I want to challenge the way you see fundraising and help you go out into your community with your head high instead of feeling like your hand is out. So now I want to talk about the power of fundraising, because fundraising has the ability to bring communities together and to transform them in the process. It really doesn't have to be seen as a necessary evil. Fundraising can actually be incredibly empowering when it's framed the right way. So how do we frame it? We do this by taking ourselves out of the equation. focusing on what impact will be made in the community if we're elected, how the community will benefit and change with you at the table. Center the community, center your impact, and fundraising will become a catalyst for change, not a means to an end. I want to give you an example to demonstrate this. Often, money is valued more than time. Donors and funders are treated with more care than volunteers, staff, or pro bono consultants. We have to stop looking at giving money as the highest form of support. For folks who have the means, it's often the most passive way to contribute. Think about it this way. If someone asks you to donate $10 or give 20 hours of your time in support of a political campaign, which one would you choose? Chances are most of you would choose the $10. So by placing donors and funders on a pedestal, we perpetuate a power dynamic that doesn't need to be there. This dynamic has colonial undertones and always leaves you and your initiative feeling disempowered or small. We treat donors like our lifeblood, profusely thank them for supporting us as though they're doing us a huge favor, when in reality, they're taking the path of least resistance to create change in their community. I share this example so you can see that money is not the be-all, end-all of a successful initiative. Sure, it's essential, but so are many other things. By giving it too much power, you're shifting focus from what really matters, and can sometimes compromise your values as a result. You'll see in our upcoming activity that there are fundraising philosophies that believe that money should not be valued more than time. So now we've come to our first activity. In the spirit of rethinking how we look at fundraising, CCF is an incredible example of fundraisers looking to radicalize the system as we know it. Here's what they say about their movement. Community-centric fundraising, or CCF, is a movement to evolve how fundraising is done in the nonprofit sector. Its goal is to support fundraisers and other nonprofit professionals to re-examine every fundraising philosophy and practice that they've been taught, engage in vigorous ongoing conversations, and explore doing fundraising in ways that reduce harm and further social justice. I want to introduce this concept to help you understand why fundraising can feel difficult, and give you some new framework through which to consider your campaign plans. We're going to watch a video and then do some reflection questions, so please consult your workbook for more information. So now that you've done your activity, we're going to talk about municipal campaign fundraising basics. In this section, we'll go over the bare bones and help you understand what's needed and what's allowed. When you're running a municipal campaign, there's only one source of funding: individuals who are residents of Ontario. So all of the information I'll give you here is with that in mind. And the best advice I can give you here is to keep yourself informed. This will help ensure that there are no uncertainties when you walk into a fundraising effort. There are a couple of links in the reference sheet. One to the Ontario government website, where you'll find a whole lot of details about campaign financing, as well as a 2022 Ontario Municipal Candidate Guide. Please use them to supplement what we're going over here. So we'll start with what you need to do any municipal fundraising. This is a combination of tips from me and actual things you need. I'll let you determine what's adaptable here and tailor the list to your needs and capacities. Just know that if you have all of these items, you'll definitely be good to go. So the first thing is a campaign bank account. This is really important. The next is a donation form, both paper and online, and this is for accepting donations. I think that both are necessary because you never know where you're going to be doing fundraising, and having paper donation forms is just a nice backup. You just need a way to capture payment and also donor information. Next, I think it's nice to keep a donation jar for small donations under $25 that you can bring around to fundraising events. This is great for just having a space for people to drop off a little bit of spare change or any small amount of cash they want to give you just to show their support. And the next thing is a spreadsheet to track donations and expenses. You can do this in any way you like, but just know that you'll need to submit expense and donation reports after your campaign, so don't skip this one. The next thing is a receipt template. So this is to give to people after they donate to you. Remember that folks can't claim campaign donations on their taxes. This is just a receipt like the proof of purchase we get after buying anything. So for both the spreadsheets for tracking expenses and donations and the receipt, there's tons of templates online. Just a simple Google search will show you a bunch of options that you can use in your campaign. And the last thing is a thank you email or card for a personal touch. And this is kind of a special tip from me because I think this is a great form of donor stewardship, which we'll look at a bit later in the final activity. It's a great thing to have on hand. So here's what's allowed on a municipal campaign. First, like I said, only Ontario residents can contribute to your campaign. And the second is you can't raise more than $25,000 for your campaign, so there's a cap on the amount of money you can raise. And there are also limits to what you can give to your campaign out of your own pocket and how much other people can give as well. And you'll find all of these details on the Ontario government website. And remember again that only donations over $25 need to be receipted. And of course, with what's allowed comes what's not allowed. So here are all the things that are not allowed on your fundraising. The first is you can't report volunteer work as financial donations. So even if your volunteers are the reason your campaign worked, their time is not thought of as a donation, or financial donation that is. So you can't report that. People also need to use their credit cards, checks, debit cards, or make money orders if they're giving over $25. So donations over $25 can't be made in cash. And next, if you got a loan from the bank or a lending institution for your campaign, you can't report that as a campaign contribution or donation. And lastly, this is a list at the very bottom of the slide here of all of the places you can't accept donations from. Basically, for your municipal campaign, you're looking at individual contributions only. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Here's where we'll talk about how important it is to find strong messaging for your campaign. What you say when you're fundraising is make or break. Your words are the most powerful tool that you have. So let's talk about the importance of impact. Fundraising is a way to engage people in their own communities, not in you and your ideas. In the end, you are here because you want to make a change. You want to give back to your community. So really, it's not about you. It's about the change and impact you want to make. So take the focus off of yourself as an individual. Not only does this make it more empowering to fundraise, it also brings the donor closer to the change itself and keeps them accountable for what they're bringing to the table. They're part of this just as much as you are, and you should aim to show them that. So let's take a look at these two sentences with that in mind. They're both things you could say when you're seeking donations. So the first one focuses on the candidate and the election, the two most immediate things at stake. The second one, though, brings us together and into the bigger picture. What does putting you on the council mean? You're running for election because you want to make change. Presumably, if you're elected, you'll do whatever you can to make that change. So why are we talking about the election? Why don't we just focus on the end game or what will be accomplished? This is a much more powerful sentence to use. Now we're going to look at thanking people properly. This is another key moment that needs strong messaging. The way we acknowledge and thank people for their donations makes a huge difference in whether or not they'll be back. Making it just about the election misses a huge opportunity to build a relationship. I'm going to read these two sentences, and I want you to think about the difference. The first one says, "Thank you so much for generously contributing $50 towards my campaign. It's so unbelievably kind of you to support me, and I can't thank you enough." And the second sentence is, "Thank you for your investment into our community today. Your contribution of $50 will ensure that our community's needs are being heard and acknowledged in council. By stepping up today, you're ensuring that real change is around the corner." See how the second sentence is about more than the election? It's giving that donation life and meaning and bringing it back to the change that the individual is making by giving a donation. It's realistic, you can deliver on that promise, and it helps set the stage for a lasting relationship versus an emphatic thank you that keeps things too much in the moment. You're not indebted to the donor. I want you to remember that. They're making change with their money, and that should be enough. This brings us to our final activity. In this activity, you'll be writing an elevator pitch for your campaign. This will be the key talking points you'll present to potential donors, as well as being the foundation for all of your fundraising. You'll also be creating a strategy for after the yes, or in other words, after someone agrees to contribute. You'll find a way to harness this important moment so you can come out of your campaign with lasting relationships in the community. So read the articles linked in your worksheet and do the exercise with the articles and everything we talked about today in mind. The first article talks about a problem statement, which is essentially answering the question, why does this matter? You can use the tips and reframe the question, why does this campaign matter? And make your elevator pitch to answer that question. Use the prompts in the workbook to help get started. The second article is about that crucial moment after someone agrees to contribute. There are a bunch of logistical questions you should keep in your back pocket, but also some great relationship building questions that'll help you strengthen your connection to the donor. Take what you will and maybe come up with your own. Hopefully when you're done, you'll have some great framing for your campaign and everything you need to get out and start talking to donors. We made it! Thank you so much for your time and attention. I really hope you're walking out of this module with some more confidence around fundraising and some helpful tools to plan your campaign. Remember, fundraising does not have to be a necessary evil. Part of being a great leader is believing in yourself and standing up for your community's best interests. And that's all you really need to do great fundraising. Thank you so much again.